heavily. Xayah is almost going to be a given. It's more about what Shun's champion is going to be in the jungle for me. AP options, kind of. I wouldn't say limited, but like, what do you really run with Jayce if not Maokai? Is the big question that you always kind of want to ask.
Ivan, but do they play Ivan? We've not seen a single time from Shun.
Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. You know, his AP option typically is Nidalee Smile. So
yeah.
Let's see. Xayah, I think, is kind of a foregone conclusion. Do you go Xayah Rakan? Maybe you just lock in the full bot lane here, just kind of slam it and make LNG choose between a mid laner and a support. That's also a pretty viable option if you're BLG. There's a lot of, you know, lockdown already, though, between this Maokai. So if you do go Rakan, expect a Nautilus on the opposite end immediately, and I feel like LNG are still happy with that trade. Sure. I was joking!
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Shun is just... he's like, nah, we're not getting second round bans again. I'm not having it taken away from me. Shun goes for the Nidalee. Full poke out from the mid and the jungle. Full skirmish. And now LNG. Suddenly onus on them. What do you want to play? How are you going to shut down this Nidalee in the early game? You know, earlier on, you kind of asked me what the other AD options could be. By the way, I think Irelia is kind of a weird one into a lot of the mid laners right now. Surprisingly solid matchup, but it's not really a pick that shows up too often in pro play, and it will just be the LeBlanc alongside the Maokai. Now, one thing I will say is immediately, LNG's composition is quite skewed into AP, so expect Gala to probably go towards the more traditional AD build, I would suspect. Yeah, I mean, I feel like for LNG now, Rakan ban kind of a given, maybe another top lane ban, as BLG looking to just remove away engage tools on top of LNG, because, I mean, yeah, look at composition. If you've got more engage on top of some of the dive options here, if it's LNG, the execution becomes very, very easy. Yeah, I feel like Poppy is probably looking at his notebook, like flicking through the pages, like, what do we do when our two bans on towards Shun in the second phase? I don't have any notes on this. Every draft is two bans on Shun. One up to On's Rakan. Not just incredible for On, but also incredible in the duo. And then the Alistair taken away from On as well, which On's looked absolutely unbelievable on that pick recently. It's all support bans here.
This has to be Rel, I think, the final ban here for BLG. Because I know you've got basically every S tier support off the table except for Rel. So now this is where you kind of have to dig a little bit, right? This is where you start
Milio versus Lulu. Let's go back to the start of the year.
Yeah, you know, like if you're looking at Hunk's champion pool, yeah, like the only other engage option really, I suppose, is Leona. And at that point, the Merc value is so high for LNG that if BLG are able to just lock in 2 tanks here, I feel like their composition is pretty okay. It's relatively well-rounded. They've got, you know, an AP source in Nidalee Smile. And as long as they can really survive the initial engage tools here from LNG, they're kind of cruising. So let's see where On goes. The Braum is still up and available. I feel like it has to be a Braum angle here, right? Maokai engage from long distance. The Leona in lane. It just feels like a bit of a given. It's more about what Bin's pick is going to be. Is it just Ksante again? I think it's just Ksante again, Joe. And that's probably going to be the rotation out. And then we give counter pick over to Zika and see whether or not he spices up things and really turns this into a bit of an awkward affair for BLG, right? He had the Fiora ban, the Camille ban as well last time out. Will he be willing to go towards those options? That's the big question. Milio? I mean, you know, Milio's got a fair amount of value here when you think about it, right? As long as he's not the one getting hit by the Leona ult, he can always cleanse people away. Set's also a really interesting option too, which... okay.
Of course. It's the old classic from On. We saw it at MSI plenty of times. Brings out the Blitzcrank, looking to find hooks onto Gala. I will say, excuse me, I just nearly died.
Okay,
I will say, not the greatest targets in terms of the Maokai, in terms of the Leona, but if he can find those hooks onto Gala, then hopefully they'll get kills onto Gala like my throat nearly got a kill onto me.
Sure. Nice toss. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think of BLG and On specifically, it's kind of his old faithful, right? You know, it's like everything else is dead. Oh, reliable here. Blitzcrank is going to find us a hook eventually, and that's going to be the name of the game. A lot of poke and just kind of that Blitzcrank roaming around. We'll see if they can secure priority around Vision. and the objectives, specifically LNG, that's what they're going to have to really play to deny and look to not really get, you know, caught off guard by weird angles by On, but also with a Nidalee in the game, you start to wonder how do the side lanes start to kind of match up as well, because Dive's always on the off.
And we'll see who can take the advantage in this series. It's game number 3 between BLG and LNG.
Still a bit outmatched, aren't they?
Yeah.
But certainly a little bit more lively.
I feel like the BLG crowd weren't ready for their Xayah to be first there. Like, the third one was a lot stronger than the first two. They're like, oh, wait, this is us?
Wait, that's us?
Okay.
He said, that guy said BLG, not LNG. Xayah!
Oh, dear. Here we go. Xun already moving forwards to get some vision. Needs to know where Tarzan is. We're keeping our eyes on Xun throughout this early game. He's got his signature Nidalee that he's oh so well known for. But I want to talk about another signature that's been locked in. Leona has not been a big pick in the meta as of late, but Hung kind of built his reputation on Nautilus and Leona, and actually over 47 games, he's got a 70% win rate on Leona. And when you consider the teams that Hung has been on over the last few years, 70% win rate on anything is pretty damn impressive. So you know you have to respect this pick from Hung.
This is his jam. You know, this is bread and butter, if I may, for Hung. So let's see how he gets on, anticipating that the engages will come thick and fast. As I will say, earlier on I brought up that point, you know, for Hung, this is a series where, you know, support to support. You know, you said he can step up and prove himself. For me, it's a lot more about, you know, doing that via that trigger discipline and ensuring that he knows the engages are solid and not ones that can be punished very heavily on the Leona. It's definitely going to be a bit of a case study of just that thesis. So let's see how he gets on his very, very happy pick, because what caught your eye? What gave you the...
Just the win rates to the bottom.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is like super positive. It's like when you look at BLG's scoreline across the course of the year, they're 30-7 in games. So it's like, it doesn't really matter which picks they're on. The win rates are going to look good from the first seed. Xun moving into the bottom side. On has Flash. Flash for Flash between the supports.
All right. Not the end of the world for LNG, but still something that can look to be punished. Xun goes for a 3 camp into a gank as well, so it's going to slow down his tempo. We'll see if he really looks to try and turn it into Invader, or it's just gank into gank and more farming. It seems like that'll be the case. Look onto Scout, maybe he distorts forward for a trade and then look for it off the back of that. Otherwise, there's a really tough angle, and Xun just not willing to pay the patience for it, goes back towards his jungle camps for the clear.
Yeah, it's like you say, you've got to keep your pace up when you're on that Nidalee. You've got to be farming well. You've got to kind of control the early game. So trying to make things happen in the lanes and find an easy snowball, but equally doesn't want to waste too much time. So fairly quick ganks, fairly quick presence. Scout getting a really nice trade there onto Yagao. Really good start to the lane from Scout. Finding advantages already, as you can see. Pretty sizable CS lead, considering we're only 3.5 minutes in.
Exactly. Should look to close at some point, but for now, remains a relatively big one. Tarzan just kind of down here because he's full cleared and finished up. Looking towards the scuttle, and we'll just give a bit of coverage in case for whatever reason Xun ended back up on the bottom side. One thing I will say though is because of the pathing of Tarzan, if Xun looks onto these Raptors, and I mean he had the ward at level 1, he'll know that that's respawning up, but Tarzan's here to cover it. Yeah, not going to be able to steal away the second rotation, so we'll just have to retreat back to his own jungle.
You could see as well, like, the instant turnaround from Xun. Yeah. The second he sees that TP coming out from Scout mid, he's like, yeah, no, I'm out of here.
It's not
I'm pretty sure they know what's going on here. As Hung stepping forwards. Both supports, they use their flashes, but they've got those Hex flashes available. So we'll still be able to be aggressive. You just can't use the flash defensively anymore. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that bottom lane. Because hooks could come on through. But again, like, hooking Leona, not always a good thing. If Xun's in the lane, that's fine. But if you hook Hung, and then he can just combo onto Elk, it's not a good situation as Scout continues to find these trades.
Scout looking for the trades. Slowly trying to grow out that CS lead more and more. Again, I feel like mid lane, it's such a difficult one to tackle as BLG, but for LNG, one way you can attack it very, very easily, right? A lot CC between Tarzan and Scout. think Yagao's likely to kind of rush towards the Merc Treads, and as soon as he does that, then the threat definitely does drop. But until then, especially once the level 6 comes in, there you go for Scout. Double chains. You'd have to imagine it's just an immediate flash blown from Yagao. Also kind of curious about how On's going to look to approach Rose. He's got the hook, interrupts Scout. Very annoying.
Looks like Yagao not really willing to commit to a play onto Scout here. But On with a really nice hook there. Just denies the tempo a little bit. Yagao and Scout both no TP available. So this will be a full-on recall. It's going to be a long time back to lane. So Yagao has an opportunity to potentially crash a wave here and should be able to do so. I think that'll hit the tower just before that next wave comes, and there we go. So crash achieved. Nice little roam from On.
Yep, nice little roam from On. Does help out Yagao's wave state and basically equalizes the CS for now. Yeah, hook's not going to connect onto Tarzan. Spear will. I'm curious about the dragon.
Game of dodgeball that is this game, like the saplings coming out, the spears to answer, hooks coming through. And then in the meantime, you're going to have to start dodging killer instincts coming out from Gala. There's feathers from Elk. It feels like this game, and shock blasts as well.
Yep.
This is going to be a game of skill shots. This is going to be a game of trying to dodge, seeing what you can get away with.
Gonna need the movement very soon. BLG could get collapsed on Shun. First chain.
We'll get rooted.
A little bit too close to the tower.
Yeah. That's the problem with Leona versus like a Nautilus. Nautilus will pull you away from that tower slightly as you go in, whereas Leona, you are committing your body to the play. In, pulled under the tower, but doesn't actually tank it. Maybe tanked one shot. Hard to say with the shield, but Zika getting some good damage down, punishing Bin for the aggression in the top side. And even in CS as well up in the top lane.
Yeah, not too bad. Really nice bit of pressure put down there by Zika, and Bin will just equalize it by going the implants out of the river, so not the end of the world. Nice to see that Zika's trying to make the best of this lane, as he did in game number 1. Still fell behind a little bit, but that was equalized out once Bin looked for that play with the teleport, didn't it? So we'll see if something like that opens up for him again, because it gave him so much resources, or so many resources rather, which is a little difficult to then start to take over the team fights with Scout. This time out, Scout on the LeBlanc. It's a little bit more about side laning, but also with the kind of composition that LNG have around the LeBlanc, she can definitely still function as a bit of a poke mage and annoyance off those side lanes regardless. So let's see how that one plays out. BLG can collapse onto this, but LNG instead.
Hung just instantly flashes onto them. Elk using his cleanse early on, saving the Featherstorm, but his first blood already. Tarzan's low and Shun just pounces in. In come the shock blast, but it's wide as Yagao closes the gap. Hung surviving though, as Scout now joins the play as well, but BLG still on top of it. No, Scout takes them to pieces. Double kill, and Gala's got the killer instinct. Elk is no longer, and Gala, he's eating venison tonight.
Dude, BLG might have been first to that play, but by the time the rest of LNG show up, they just start dropping bodies instantly, and no one gets the dragon, but LNG picking up kills on crucial members. 2 kills go into Scout's back pocket. Kill goes into Gala. That's static shiv already available for the LeBlanc. And I mean, decisiveness from Hung is so key here. Helps lock down Elk. He has to use the cleanse. The feather pullback is nice, and even though On dies, you start to look at this turn around and you think, all right, maybe this can work out for BLG. Shock blast sidestepped by Hung. Still dies, but again, it means that the target selection then has to be overextended by BLG. And then Shun just gets one-shot by Scout. Same thing for Yagao, who's overextended, and then at this point, Elk doesn't really have anywhere to go. No flash, no cleanse, has the ultimate, but Gala has that second skin stacked up, and Cathy and Rain finishes it off to crown himself with 1 kill on the back end of the play. And now LNG, with kills in all the carries that they need, can start to look very happily towards looking for a retake on that dragon.
And you know, we've been talking a little bit about signature picks today, and I feel like we always do in the LPL. There are so many legendary players. And Scout, while you may think of like things like the Xayah, things like the Rise, when you think of Scout, his LeBlanc is also insane. Remember the old story of Scout, that he was Faker's trainee. He was the guy on SKTT1 back in the day, learning underneath Faker, back when Faker was flawless on LeBlanc. You know that Scout's LeBlanc is legendary in its own right, with a 65% win rate over 55 games in his career. He's starting off strong here with a stack shift already picked up 2-0-1. Scout, this is your game.
Absolutely is. Not a lot of hard CC either across the board from BLG. No point and click to lock down Scout, so he's going to feel really confident throughout this game to step up and basically just deal the damage that he needs to. He's never really going to be threatened, so freedom for Scout. And the rest of LNG utilizing his freedom in the mid lane, picking up this dragon. They'll get that one stacking, and now BLG try and cross map. They'll get the Herald, I'm pretty sure, but they have to make good use of it, claw back this gold lead that they have allowed LNG to build themselves.
See if they can find it. Elk, he has the Feather Storm, but he doesn't have Cleanse, he doesn't have Flash. And here come the roots across the team. Hung tries to get the stun. The Solar Flare is perfect. Timing, immaculate. Easiest dive of LNG's life.
Yeah, exactly. LNG don't really have to do much there. Cleanse was just coming up. Even if he had Cleanse, I mean, he's just died.
I mean, look at this scoreboard and think back to game number 1. Does this not feel exactly like what BLG did to LNG in game number 1? Game 2 so close, but game number 3 here, this is feeling like a stomp for LNG so far.
Yeah, it is. See if they can keep the pace high though, LNG, right? That's what you really want to see. That's where it succeeded for BLG. They just kept on throwing bodies towards Zika. Now you want to see LNG continue to throw bodies towards Elkanon. This topside matchup isn't really one where, you know, it can be exploded quite quickly. Zika's doing a great job of just neutralizing, so BLG either have to try and abuse it ASAP as much as they can, or they have to try and answer the numbers on the bottom side. On can like the attempt. Try and silence Scout before he can get that next distortion off, but window's a little bit too small.
Just a tiny bit too late on it. Good shock blast from Yagao. I remember mid-game is going to be where the Jayce, the Nidalee really come into their own, where the spears and the shock blasts are going to do so much damage. The game is certainly not over just yet, but LNG in a fantastic spot. And I love the draft that they've built for themselves as well. I love that we're seeing a different look from, you know, the Xayah kind of composition where it's all about the scaling, it's all about late game. This one feels much more like they have playmaking all throughout the game, even in the top side, winning bot lane, winning mid lane. It feels fantastic, and with a 2-0-2 Tarzan as well, there's not a single weak point on the map.
No, there is not. Tarzan, honestly, in a game like this where there's only really one tank buster, air quotes, from Elk, you feel really good about having 2 kills. Having Tarzan pick up the resources is always going to be okay, just because he's going to be this unkillable frontline. Now, they're just, again, looking to kind of posture up around this bottom side, right? And that's what we want to continue to see. Put down this pressure, continues to grow the lead. BLG have the Herald on the opposite side. They have to use it to get a huge amount of gold. It has to be like 3 plates or more. They're all angling up towards Zika. Maybe they can take him out on a dive. Let's see how they make this one work as they approach.
Look at the minimap though. Hung knows what's going on. He's headed straight over. So is Tarzan. This has been rumbled. BLG going to try and make the play in the top side. Do they commit to this one? Hung, they must know he's there at this point as he drops a ward in. There we go. Play diffused already. LNG, they're reading BLG like a book.
Yeah, this was great from LNG. They understand that realistically, Zika can't be dived very quickly, and then not only do they make it here, despite the Herald being dropped, it's now going to get basically the minimum value possible. 2 plates, and it's spread into 3 members, neither of which are Yagao or Elk. So I feel like LNG don't really care about the fact that they lost those plates at all, and they can just continue to match where appropriate and go to look towards that second dragon once it spawns up.
Kind of interesting. Hang on. Yagao won't be able to pass out. He just dips away again. Cleanse instantly from Elk, and the Featherstorm out as well. Root onto Hung. Oh no! The hook is just a pixel too short from on.
I'm gonna need an instant replay of that hook, because I feel like the hook touched Hung's nose, but couldn't quite get a grip on his head.
Oh, Bin's in so much trouble. Bin is in so much trouble. Zika turns Mega Gnar, but actually, reinforcements here for BLG. Maybe it's Hung that's in trouble instead. Shock Blast is in, and this Leona is no more. BLG finding themselves something. Still 1,000 gold behind in this game, but perhaps if they could take a tower, that'll be minimized.
Yeah, perhaps it will be. Plates are off, so it's not plate gold, but at the end of the day, you're happy to cross-map the structure. This gold goes into Yagao's back pocket, so that's going to feel quite nice. Scout on the other end, however, was answering out in kind, so very close to taking this tower down. he'll probably do it in the next couple of waves. Remember, with the stack shift completed, he's going to be able to clear past Bin here, though. Ooh,
Q3 doesn't land. That was an all-out angle. The scout zips on back, but Bin into the wave will protect the tower. Zon's moving over to the bottom side. Scout has to be cautious as Tarzan moves in to protect his mid laner. Dragon spawning on the map. Zika in the top lane, but has TP.
Exactly, teleport available. No one on BLG has that TP, so they want to commit to the Dragon. Zika wants to put down a little bit of pressure. The issue is, for LNG and for Zika specifically, he's timing out Mega Gnar now, so he's going to be exhausted. He's going to have to rebuild that bar up. So I think this is likely just a bit of a yield here from LNG, and they're just going to willingly look towards that tower in the top side. We'll see whether or not they can get it. I feel like with Triforce, it could be pretty much mincemeat. As there goes the Dragon. And Yagao will answer the top side of the map. So Dragon one apiece, another Cloud Soul and Rift. It was game 1 we had that. Game 3, they're gifted with the wins again.
See who's going to take control of the Drakes later on. It's one apiece, which does tend to mean we're not going to see a Soul as all out. Committed onto Scout here. Will be able to just dip back to his distortion, but Bin just making sure that Scout knows he's having no nonsense in that bottom side. He will protect that tower with his life. The tower will stand as both solo laners recall. Herald coming up in 20 seconds.
Exactly. LNG, Maokai, LeBlanc, all of these snap engage they have. They're in the river first. Honestly, I feel like for BLG, it's so rough. You've got Poke right between Yagao and Shun, but is it ever really enough to force out LNG? I feel like the answer is no, unless it's somehow slipping through the goalposts and hitting Gala or Scout. Well, Scout's never going to be there, so BLG probably have to give this one up. We'll see, though. They're kind of pushing forward on the minimap. As we take a look at that bottom side. They've retaken control for now, Joe. There you go.
Oh, On could be in trouble. He's not that tanky, but the silence comes in. Gala pulled back in as Zika found Elk has that Featherstorm as Zika tries to put some pressure down. Scout underneath the tower. Featherstorm immediately has to come out. BLG are just kicked out of the top side. Bin couldn't be a part of the play. It's fantastic stuff from LNG. They continue to leverage this advantage.
I just continue to ponder the question, how do BLG contest 5v5 against this composition? It doesn't feel tenable, and the Herald's going to go over now. BLG, again, I feel like the win conditions are so slim that approaching these fights is just not possible. I don't know, it's a head scratcher, Joe. And BLG have landed on what they've landed on. Yagao? Steal? Not gonna happen. Though Tarzan's really struggling to hit the high.
Yeah, Tarzan finally gets it. But again, look at Scout. He's already got the Shiv as well as a Night Harvester. He's in such a strong spot. However, one thing I will say, BLG, Blitzcrank. You can never quite count out a Blitzcrank composition, but it's feeling fantastic for LNG right now. So long as they don't get caught out themselves, they should be good. On tanking the tower for a minute here, but be okay. BLG do manage to pressure a tower out from LNG. And I feel like that's one thing that BLG have done very well in both games that they were behind, is still continue to contest, still push forwards and fight for these objectives. On getting caught out though, not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And I mean, we go back to it, LNG, compositionally, it's not something that BLG can really overcome, it feels like. And I go back to the draft, and I'm kind of not so sold on the lack of wanting to teamfight as BLG. Again, I'm kind of, it's a conundrum to me, Joe. It's a conundrum. But maybe BLG can outdo it with a good hook from Blitzcrank or something along those lines. Either way, LNG right now can really just cruise for as long as they need to until Scouts hit, you know, 3 items, until Gala hits another one. And then at that point, they're just gonna, I feel like, overpower BLG at every angle that they can look for.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? Unless we can get some kind of miracle, some kind of mojo, if you will, from BLG. But it's not feeling particularly mojo-y in this one. And LNG, not many people expecting them to come in as a favorite today. It's BLG first seed out of the regular season and have looked dominant against everyone except for JDG. JDG, the only team that has managed to beat BLG in summer. And yet, here we are with LNG advantage in game number 3. Ain't over till it's over, but composition looks good from LNG. And we'll see what the execution is going to be like in those team fights, because these kind of like dive buddies compositions can be a little difficult to pull off. I mean, that said, the mechanics on these players are absolutely insane.
I agree. I mean,
oh no! A millimeter away from that ward. That's gutting.
Sad moment. I mean, Baron's up now though, and it's going to be the opportunity maybe for BLG to kind of come back into this one. If there's a bit of an overzealous attempt on top of the Baron, then hey, maybe LNG can fumble and BLG can find something. But until then, I feel like it's going to be the patience game from LNG, right? Suffocate BLG out of the river. And then as soon as, you know, there's an overstep looking to find information, that's it, you just turn and you burn the first target. And it should be as simple as that. Dragon's up, if LNG want it. But
oh, Scout wants out. The Solar Flare's in as well. Featherstorm already out, has to flash the heal out from On as well. Everything used here to keep Elk alive, and if that doesn't buy you space in the mid lane, I don't know what will. Elk in big trouble, overstepping, and Scout continuously punishing from the bottom side here. That's 2 fights in a row where he finds an angle onto Elk in the mid lane.
Yeah, exactly. And now Elk, no Featherstorm, no Flash, no Cleanse. Should be really easy pickings the next time something like that unfolds. Bin, kind of in an isolated position. Is it one way he can be picked off in the long run? Doesn't seem like LNG are interested. Oh, hello, Scout.
Scout's been caught out. Shun finds himself a pick here. Out of nowhere, Gala, Killer Instinct onto Shun. Can they finish off this Nidalee? Elk getting some feathers out, but Zika doesn't get caught by the pullback. Turns Mega and keeps himself alive. On needs to find a hook, needs to find a miracle. As Yagao and Bin are moving in, but the flash out from Zika. Now Bin on the front line to set up for his team, but they just don't have the damage. They can't find the targets. All out onto Tarzan to separate him from the squad, and he should go down. That's one for BLG, and a knock up onto Hung as well. Looking for a hook at BLG. I don't know how they've done it, but they've coupled a fight together.
I'm scratching my head as well. I mean, BLG, it seems like Scout just overstepped somewhere. Maybe he ate a shot blast and a spear at the same time and just gets one shot, and off the back of that alone, BLG able to find a successful fight. Now, LNG still with a minor gold lead, 1,000. They've still, to me, compositionally got themselves in a pretty good spot, but how does this happen? What the... Brother. Okay, well, just not respecting the damage that Yagao has on offer.
Yeah. He must just not realize Shun was there too. Yeah, like, that's the only thing I can think of, because that a bit of a head scratcher from Scout, honestly. And then the rest of the fight, 4v4, it's just pure confidence from BLG, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They're just very happy to take the fight. And a good flash from Bin brings Tarzan even further away from his team, whilst he's got the Q3 Prime. Able to find the knockback and takes him down. Shutdown goes over to Yagao as well. And Hung trying to back up. His teammate ends up falling in the process. So it's just a lot of golden shutdowns that go over to BLG. That put them in a position where they can kind of subtly look to contest, right? The gold lead, very minute. But when you look at the items, everyone's basically a parry. LNG on top of this Baron. It's a bit of a slow burn up. But BLG, do they...
They don't even seem to suspect anything's happening. Zika has been caught out, but he'd happily trade his life for a Baron here.
Yeah.
Is LNG, they're just going to sneak this one. BLG never even considered that it was happening. Zika surely goes down. Yagao with a shock blast to finish him, but I mean, one pick for a Baron. There's no universe where that's worth it for BLG. Scout found by Bin. He wants the 1v1. Is the distortion used by Scout just to get himself out, jumps back in to keep clearing these waves. Ah, the Shiv LeBlanc. Isn't it the most annoying thing that's ever existed? No, that's you. But hey, it's up there.
No, that is you. Hey, I mean, Juggernaut Season 5. Do you remember, like,
Garen just sprinting at you.
Oh, God, yeah. Garen wants you. Oh, Garen knew me for a little bit. That was mostly like a Fnatic special, right, I guess? What else was there? There was a lot of things over the years.
Hang on, Scout. He's been a lot of things over the years, but right now he is caught out, and that's it. That's the only thing he is. Flash comes out from him. Hook slightly shy from On. He's not been great on the hooks so far this game, but that will be a knock-up. There's Scout actually getting out of this one. They obviously thought Tarzan was a little closer than he was. They don't chase at all.
Huh. Well, not bad. Hung. Nope, he's too tanky. This is frustrating as hell for BLG, man. They've just
It doesn't feel like they can do anything.
Around. No, they can't. I mean, again, it goes back, not to be a broken record, but it goes back to the draft a little bit, right? No point in click CC. You can't really lock down anyone. The composition.
Oh, Yagao just gets one shot. Great little combo from Hung and Gala, reminding us why Leona has been such a staple in the LPL for so many years. Bringing back a bit of that vintage LPL. As now tier 2's taken in mid and in top. That pick onto Yagao just completely opens the map up. It's a huge pick onto On as well. Feathers do nothing. It's at the wrong angle, but it's the front to back, which Elk kind of likes. Bin gets one onto Hung. 1 for 1. Not ideal for either team, to be honest.
Yeah, not ideal at all. I mean, LNG would have loved to have tried to break open the base, right? But they still pick up a lot of like structure gold. You can see the Baron power play, 3,500 gold. So they're still pretty happy about it, but certainly could have looked to have been better. BLG able to break apart the tempo for now, and the game will probably just neutralize out for a couple of minutes, but does give us a little bit of time to kind of just evaluate the state of the game. I think realistically BLG still down, you know, full item on the carries where it matters. That's the big thing. The fact that LNG have got Scout and Gala on 3 items, and on top of that, Gala BF sword and a stopwatch, so a lot of additional space for dive as Scout.
Aggressive trading from both sides there. Scout going in, protecting the minions, thanks to the fact that you can give them that Baron buff. I'm looking at Gala though. Like 3 items already finished on the Kaisa, and on top of that, going for that AD Kaisa. This is the pick that he literally put his name on the international stage with. That he showed up at MSI and just destroyed people. Gala, an absolute menace on the pick. And it's a good hook from On, but it's onto Tarzan. It's really difficult to follow up onto that.
Aftershock, Maokai, almost 3,000 HP. It's not necessarily a target that you want, unfortunately. And it feels like for On, he's not hit too many hooks on the targets where they can really be burst down. Maybe they can find one now. That'll be a bit of a, you know, time buy-up for BLG here, but doesn't really seem like LNG are even going to give him the option. They're just kind of giving them the runaround again.
Yeah. I feel like LNG are kind of doing to BLG what BLG did to them in game number 1, where we're not going to fight you. We don't actually want 5v5. We're just playing for these side lanes and then playing for picks. BLG, this comp, it's all vibes. It's all hands. Can they find the skill shots? Killer Instinct comes on through, Solar Flare onto 2, but he doesn't actually find a stun. Zika has to hop away from the hook as Scout has found the backline. Bit of damage there has been tanking up for the team as they dive in. LNG, they've got this one on a platter, haven't they? They're not even taking damage in return as they dive on forwards. Featherstorm out from Elk, pulls them back in. Is it enough for the fight though? Garleton's going to keep himself alive as Elk survives Zika on the backside of things. Tarzan down, Shun will surely fall, but the heal comes on through. Gala has to flash to finish the job. Bin can't take him out though, and LNG, it was a little scrappy, it was a little close, but it looks clean in the end. 6,000 gold lead as they barrel down mid.
Honestly, hard fought there by BLG at the end, but they just don't have the items of the gold. LNG dance around them yet again, and they will close out this game and bring us to series point. LNG potentially defying a lot of people's expectations. Very close to taking down the number 1 team for regular season. Hung is going to get hooked.
It's a bonus at the end there for On, but LNG taking game number 3 here, and like you say, defying expectations. Shout out to the MSI graphics. We're all about defying. But LNG, not many people predicting them today. Just you, Jamada, with the 3-1 prediction.
Just me, yeah.